Hello, and welcome to the second part of this module, where we will talk about while loops. As we mentioned in part 1, a while loop is used when you want to repeat something until a condition is met, and you don't know how many times you need to repeat it. The general form of the while loop is while, a condition, followed by some statements inside the loop. The first thing that happens when running a while loop is to evaluate the condition. If the condition is true, the statements inside the loop are executed. When the loop has reached the end, it goes back to the start and evaluates the condition again. If the condition is true, the statements inside the loop are executed again. This is repeated until condition is false. Then Python leaves the while loop and continues with the code after the loop. If we write this in pseudocode, it can be like the while loop in the bottom. While dog is hungry, the dog eats one more sausage. We go back to the condition. While dog is hungry, the dog is still hungry, so it eats one more sausage. We go back to the beginning again. We test the condition. Dog is hungry. The dog is still hungry. So we go into the loop and the dog eats one more sausage. Then we will continue like this until the dog no longer is hungry. Then the dog stops eating sausage and we will continue after the while loop. As an example, we will compute the cumulative sum again. But this time we want to find how many values we need to include to reach a given sum. As with the for loop, we have the series 1, 2, 3, etc. But in this case, we do not know the last value to include before we reach a given cumulative sum. In this case, we want to know how many values to include before we reach the sum 6. As with the for loop, we need to initiate a variable to keep track of the cumulative sum. And we do that in the same way. SumVar is assigned the value 0. Then we need to have a counter to keep track of the current value. Compare with the iterator variable I in the for loop. In this case, we initiate the counter as n having the value 0. Then we have the while loop. While SumVar is less than 6, which is the condition, then inside the loop, we increment n with 1 in a similar fashion as we do with the variable SumVar. So the new value of n is the old value of n plus 1, which means we will increment with 1 each time and we will get the series 1, 2, 3, etc. Then we compute the cumulative sum as we did in the for loop. Here we have SumVar. We'll get the old value of SumVar plus the value of the variable n. Note the order of the statement inside the loop. We must increment n before we compute the new cumulative sum. Otherwise, we will get the old value of n. Also note that the while statement must end with a colon and that the block of code inside the loop must be indented. So when we run the loop, SumVar is 0 and n is 0. The condition in this case will be true since 0 is less than 6, which means we will enter the loop. The first thing that happens is that n is incremented with 1 and now has the value 1. Then SumVar is updated and gets the value 1. So after the first iteration, SumVar will have the value 1 and n will have the value 1. Then in the second iteration, we go back to the condition again. SumVar now has the value 1, which is less than 6, which means the condition is true, and we enter the loop once again. N is incremented with 1 and gets the value 2, and 2 is added to SumVar, which gets the new value 3. So after the second iteration, SumVar has the value 3, and N has the value 2. Again, we go back to the start of the loop and evaluates the condition. SumVar now has the value 3, which is less than 6, and the condition is still true. So we enter the loop again. This time N gets the value 3, and SumVar the value 6. Once again, we go back to the start of the loop and evaluates the condition. This time SumVar has the value 6, and 6 is not less than 6. This means the condition is false and the while loop is not entered. So after the loop, we know that N has the value 3, which means we needed 3 values, 1, 2, and 3, to reach a cumulative sum of at least 6. When writing a while loop, it is important to think about the condition. Would it be possible to run the same loop as before with a condition SumVar not equal to 6? I suggest that you pause the video and think about what can happen in this case. In this case, it would work fine to have the condition while SumVar is not equal to 6, because SumVar will reach the value 6. But what if we try with the condition SumVar not equal to 7? In this case, SumVar will have the value 1 after the first loop. After the second loop, SumVar will be 3, then it will be 6, 10, etc. That means the condition will never become false, and the loop will never stop running. We have created an infinite loop, and that is something that is important to avoid. So think carefully when you create the condition to make sure you don't get an infinite loop. Before, we initiated N with a value 0, and we incremented N before SumVar was computed. Here, we initiate N with a value 1 and increment N after SumVar is computed. And this will get the correct cumulative sum. The first time in the loop, N will be 1. The next time, N will be 2. The next time, N will be 3. So the cumulative sum will be correct. But what value will N have when this loop stops? Pause the video and try to figure out what the difference will be compared to the previous version of the loop. What happens in this case is that N is incremented after SumVar is updated. That means that when the loop stops running, N will have the value 4. And that is not correct since we reach the cumulative sum of 6 already when N is 3. This example shows that you can write code that gives a result that might seem to be correct, but it is not in this case. So think carefully when you write the code. Here is another example of a while loop. We have a while loop where we randomly draw balls of different colors inside the loop. We have the variable number green, which is counting the number of green balls that have been drawn. Number green is incremented with 1 each time a green ball is drawn in the loop. How would you write the condition in this case? Pause the video and try to figure out. In this case, we want to stop when number green reach 8. Do not think about when to stop. Think about how long the loop should continue running. In this case, the loop will continue until number of green reach 8. So the condition can be while number green is less than 8. It is easy to get confused about when to stop and when to continue. For a while loop, think about when to continue rather than when to stop. That was all about while loop. Just a final word. Now you have learned how to use if statement, for loops, and while loops. With these tools you can create really advanced programs. And the concepts are the same for other programming languages. The syntax, exactly how the code will look, will be different, but the concepts are the same. This was all for Module 2. Bye for now and good luck with the exercise.